Inspire Eid on the second day. We had a fantastic time. And I know there was many people who joined obviously on the first day of Eid as well. And it's always a really beautiful event with, the whole community there. It's always so fantastic. But on today's show, I am delighted to be joined by a wonderful guest. And we are going to be talking a lot about poetry on today's show. And I am joined by the wonderful Shahd Mahnavi. And we are going to be discussing her new poetry collection, which is called White Shoes. And I am just going to give you a very quick introduction to Shahd. And I have had the pleasure of meeting Shahd, and Shahd was actually attended a poetry event in Luton. I think it was just at the end of last year, and it's been really fantastic to be able to connect with her. So Shahd Mahnavi, a Palestinian poet, activist, advocate, and entrepreneur, was born and raised in Jerusalem to parents deeply involved in politics and writing. Her father, a prominent political figure and poet, and her mother, a writer advocating for women's rights, instilled in her a passion for writing, art, and singing from a young age. At 18, Shahd moved to the UK to pursue higher education, finding solace and a sense of home in London, despite being felt oppressed in Jerusalem. In the UK, Shahd has built a life raising 2 children and establishing successful businesses. In recognition of her contributions, she received the prestigious High Street Hero Award from Wandsworth Women Enterprise in 2023 and was a runner-up in just earlier this year. Shahd uses poetry as a powerful medium to raise her voice against oppression and injustice, amplifying the voices of the Palestinian people. So Shahad's recently published a poetry book called White Shoes, with all profits dedicated to medical aid for Palestinians. Her EP, also titled White Shoes, is also released, again with all profits supporting medical aid for Palestinians, which is also referred to as MAP. She's currently also working on a new poetry book focused on empowering women facing abuse and hardship, and committing to donate 50% of the profits to forgotten women and the remaining 50% to women's aid. I'm really delighted to have Shahd on today's show, especially because so many of us will know everything with the genocide happening in Gaza currently, and everything that we're probably seeing on the news and social media. So I'm really grateful to have Shahd join me on the book club show today. So assalamu alaikum, Shahd.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, so well. Thank you so much for joining us. How has your morning been so far?
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm very humbled by this lovely introduction about myself. Thank you.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure. And I guess maybe a place to start is to talk a little bit about what has inspired this book, White Shoes. What's the inspiration and the agenda behind it?
Sure. I collaborated with a talented musician named Nicholas James, also known by his stage name Ragman Jones. One day, I asked him if he could play guitar at one of my performances to help raise money for Gaza. So he joined me, and we created a beautiful combination of my poetry recitation and his guitar playing in the background. Afterwards, he got in touch with me and told me he would love to create an EP for me as a gift for the Palestinian people to promote peace. He was inspired by my poem, Lullaby of Hope. So we worked on the EP together, and it was truly a beautiful experience. So I have a collection of poems. So Nicholas suggested that a poetry book could complement the EP. He even generously offered to use one of his paintings as the cover for my poetry book. I have been performing for many months, as you know, with the aim of supporting my people. So we combined our creativity for a very meaningful cause. And as you also mentioned, I was going to mention about my second book, but you already mentioned it. Thank you. And at the moment, we are also collaborating on that second book. It's almost, ready. And I'm really honored to you know, to be happy that this is all gonna go for charity. Yeah.
And it's so wonderful to kind of hear that, I guess, how the collective and I guess collaboration, isn't it, which is such a powerful thing when artists come together to produce work and, you know, support each other. And yeah, absolutely, you know, it's been really wonderful to see, to follow you kind of on social media, and, you know, you've been performing, you know, at so many different events, again, you know, kind of amplifying you know, Palestinian voices, and obviously as a Palestinian, you know, yourself. And I guess, you know, I was really interested to know, what has your journey been like? Because obviously you originally from Jerusalem, and obviously you've come to the UK, and I guess what has that been like? And you know, I guess that difference, and still being rooted, I guess, in heritage and in our homelands, but then obviously adopting a new home.
Growing up as a Palestinian in Jerusalem, constantly feeling on the edge. I grew up among oppression, discrimination, and prejudice, constantly watching the injustice that's happening to my people. These experiences have really left a lasting impact on me, as they still exist, didn't stop. And I left my family behind, but took away my heritage, culture, and my love remains for home, you know. And at the age of 18, I arrived in the UK with just 2 suitcases. To be honest with you, it was such a brave move to go to London on my own, but I always believed that there was a greater meaning waiting for me. So just despite constantly feeling homesick and missing my family, London has become my new home. It offers me opportunities to speak out for the Palestinian people. Through my poetry and voice, I can raise awareness, make a change, and also participate and be there to help the community, you know, a chance I would have never been able to have if I stayed in Jerusalem. So, yeah, and by getting married very young, 21, and I have, alhamdulillah, my 2 amazing kids, and my businesses, you know, I have transformed my life in ways I could not have imagined. But as I mentioned, it's that passion in my heart that there is a purpose for me.
And I think, you know, mashallah, I think that purpose is being, you know, fulfilled in a really beautiful way at the moment, you know, through your poetry, through your art. And obviously because of the, you know, current, you know, genocide in Gaza, and obviously, as we know, historically, this is not something that started on the 7th October. You know, this is decades and decades of oppression, and obviously the fact that you yourself have experienced this, you know, when you were younger, while you were in Jerusalem. But I guess, you know, I wanted your thoughts on how do you think poetry and, you know, art in general, you know, what is it about that which is helping to amplify, you know, Palestinian voices, you know, at a time where at the moment much of the world is potentially, I guess, or maybe I should say more about, you know, governments and the media who are willingly kind of ignoring what's going on. How important is it to make art, and what important job do artists have?
Poetry and art can give voice to the Palestinians, definitely. Through heartfelt poems, powerful paintings, and moving music, Palestinians are able to share their stories and emotions with the world. By sharing their personal perspectives through art, they can shed light on the human side of the conflict. And by challenging stereotypes and spark compassion and action, art has a unique ability to connect people across boundaries, really, making it a powerful tool for communicating and building empathy, even in the face of ongoing challenges and struggles. You know, also poetry and art serve as a means for Palestinians to reclaim their narratives and assert their humanity and stand strong against forces that seek to silence them.
No, absolutely. And I mean, we will obviously delve a little bit more deeper into, you know, some of the poetry from your collection, White Shoes. But it's just occurred to me to ask, so, you know, in terms of, is poetry or kind of, is that something you were always interested in, even when you were younger? I mean, obviously, this is the book club show. Were there particular books that you used to enjoy reading, or is this something that has come later in life?
Basically, as a child, I always like to use my imagination. And obviously, I loved reading and painting, and I always used my painting and poetry together. So whatever I used to imagine, I used to paint it, and then I start writing along the way. So I needed both because it's as being creative from a very, very young age. I just enjoyed really creating and exploring, and I felt there's so much that I can deliver. I felt it's something that instilled in me, something that I'm born with. So it was really just a journey for me, knowing it's there and just discovering it again growing up. So yeah.
And also when you came to Luton, obviously we did a poetry event in Luton. I think it was back in November, and it was very soon after obviously the most recent kind of atrocities were being carried out by Israelis on Gaza. And obviously you brought your daughter with you, and you mentioned obviously you've got children. How have they received to kind of mum, performing and sharing her poetry? And have they, is that conversations that you've had? Or I was just wondering how
it's really interesting, because you know what, my kids are so used to me doing this that they don't even notice it anymore.
Okay, that's funny.
They actually, they're just so used to it that I even say, sometimes I'm like, hey, do you want to listen to the poem that I'm going to recite this evening? They're like, okay. I'm like, and it's, they come and they support me, and it's nice to have my children around, and they do see what I'm doing, and and I hope I can inspire them, and they do see that there is, you can use your voice, and don't give up, and don't be scared to speak the truth. In a world where a lot of times that they try to censor us. And that is really my journey of being sincere and genuine. I don't want to live in fear, and I have experienced where they try to censor my accounts. They basically, TikTok especially, they don't let me reach anyone really. So there is actually platforms that just don't want you to be out there and tell your story, but that doesn't mean I will stop. There's other means of doing it. I go to events, I still speak, and that's it. Once you have found, God put a passion inside your heart, and you found it, to be honest, this is what I live and I breathe it, really. So this is the aim, to stand for my people.
Yeah, and it's such a powerful intention, and I think that is always so important, having that intention, and then inshallah, things kind of fall into place, and we're able to, share those stories and voices. So coming onto your poetry collection, White Shoes. So actually, just before we talk about some of the poems, what's the reason behind the title? So you mentioned the illustration is obviously linked to the EP and the artist that you worked with. But why White Shoes?
We have to go back to the artist again, Nicholas James. So Nicholas James sent me the final draft before publishing the book. And there it was, the title already there. So I spoke to him, I said, could you tell me what's the inspiration behind White Shoes? And he explained to me, he said, it's a symbol of the innocent Palestinians who have tragically lost their lives. And the idea really struck a chord with the themes of my poetry book. I completely agreed with the sentiment. To me, White Shoes represents peace and the rightful life of dignity for Palestinians, with shoes and clothes untouched by blood. And after all, isn't a life of peace and dignity something everyone deserves?
Yeah, yeah, of course. And yeah, actually, I guess, when you think about it like that, that is such a, powerful, I guess, image and title. And, it definitely, it says so much about, your work and your poems, which obviously I'm really looking forward to talking about in a little bit more detail. So now one of the poems in your collection is called Ceasefire Now. And it's kind of further on in the poem, and so I'm just going to quote a part of it. They mock with laughter, capturing on phones, the arrogance for social media's throne, stealing bikes from children, making memes. Does acceptance endorse such moral themes? And, again, I mean, just to say how much I enjoy reading your poetry. And what do you think at the moment, what role social media has played during, this current genocide? Because there's done something definitely there which is slightly shifted, but also I think is creating a layer of, I don't know, I guess it's exposing obviously certain truths, but at the same time, people are also using it to spread disinformation, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
On the one hand, social media has been instrumental in raising awareness about the atrocities being committed, by providing platforms for voices that may not have been heard otherwise. It has allowed for real-time updates and first-hand accounts from civilians and activists on the ground. By shedding light on the harsh realities of the conflict and garnering international attention and support. However, on the negative side, social media has also been used to spread misinformation. You do see the hate speech and propaganda. It just, further just fueling tensions and conflicts. The spread of fake news and manipulated images can distort the narrative and perpetuate biases and stereotypes, leading to further division and violence. We have seen there's division constantly, as social media has such powerful tool for sharing information and mobilizing support. So it's also been a double-edged sword, amplifying both positive and negative aspects of the ongoing genocide. I just really think that people need to evaluate the information they encounter and strive to promote accuracy, empathy, and understanding in the digital space. Yeah, so it's just about educating themselves, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting because I've been in spaces where, in meetings and various kind of different occasions where there are people still who no doubt are seeing everything, and seeing images coming out of Gaza, particularly, of course, on social media. Yet there is this tendency to say, oh, no, but I don't understand enough, or, it's very complicated. That's a word that many people tend to use, or even, so this idea of actually taking on the initiative, I guess, to actually educate ourselves and to maybe stop being spoon-fed propaganda, I guess in some ways. And we all know, I mean, obviously, for those of us who work, whether it's in the creative industry or the media industry, we know so much of this kind of goes on. And I mean, in the same poem, you also write that freedom of speech, our right and our call, dignity and identity, we demand them all. And again, maybe I mean, we've covered some of it already, but I'm wondering, that there's been ongoing protests, obviously at the moment, and marches supporting, obviously, and showing solidarity to the people of Palestine. And obviously, ultimately, you wanted to call for a ceasefire. And obviously, this poem is called Ceasefire Now. How are you yourself, I guess, not only as an artist, but, as a mother and as a Palestinian, and obviously we occupy so many different identities, kind of grappling with this idea of, the government calling these marches hate marches, or, trying to say that, these marches are somehow causing fear, for other people, for Jewish people. How do you feel that you need to maybe respond to that, or how's it making you feel, maybe?
I mean, some might see the protesters as disruptive, or even a threat to security. It just really, it's like they're painting them in a negative light, overlooking their calls for dignity and rights. On the other hand, independent media and advocates are really emphasizing the bravery and determination of the protesters. We can't really focus on the negative media, and we cannot really listen to these negative voices. That is their aim, to hinder us and make us, stop us from our path and our commitment to standing up for human rights and justice. We need to stay focused on the path that we need to keep going. We've been fighting for this peacefully. It's all really about respecting, that Palestinians, they deserve dignity and they deserve identity. It's really all about what everyone is doing at the moment, amplifying the voices of those pushing for a ceasefire and bringing attention with peaceful actions, So it's clear that the portrayal of these events by the government and media reflects different narratives and priorities. Is all we are doing. We are just an advocate for justice and peace. We need to engage crucially with various perspectives and sources, and if we are going to listen, basically, this will make us, affect our fight, and we are here, and we are able to make a change for them, and we are liberated. We are in a liberated city, and we cannot stop. We are just doing peaceful protests, really, and it is really simple what we're asking for. We're asking for innocent people to stop dying.
Yeah, 100%, and I think that it's so important. I think I know we have to kind of maybe keep saying it, but I think it's important because of all that we just mentioned earlier in terms of disinformation being spread. And you're right, the way government and many people are painting the protests and the protesters in negative light. Absolutely, we kind of need to push back, and we need to shed light on the amazing, beautiful kind of moments, actually, even within the protests, of people of different backgrounds, different faiths, coming together and calling for justice and calling for liberation and calling for peace. And even as Muslims, we know that actually it's a really big duty even on us to stand on the side of the oppressed, and always always, of course, seek justice. And we're going to carry on the conversation with Shahd in the second half of the show, and hopefully hear a poem or two. So don't leave us, and we'll see you shortly. Assalamu alaikum.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
यह है आपका अपना रेडियो स्टेशन जो रहे हर लम्हा आपके साथ। आज ही अपने मोबाइल फोन में इंस्पायर एफएम का ऐप डाउनलोड कीजिए और रखिए इंस्पायर एफएम को हमेशा अपने साथ।
Established since 1990, Leagrave Heating Supplies is the largest independent plumbers merchant in the area. And we're the specialist for all types of plumbing and heating, as well as combination boilers and mega flow cylinders. Leagrave Heating Supplies is your first choice for your new bathroom or complete heating system. Visit our showroom at Shoreland Lane, Luton, to see our latest range of quality bathrooms. Or log on to lhsdirect.co.uk. We're stockists of genuine Baxi spares, and we have a showroom in Bedford too. Leagrave Heating Supplies. Call Luton 84 86 88.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abul Hussain. I'm the president of the Berry Park Mosque.
My name is Sister Mary. I'm the interfaith coordinator for the Northampton Catholic Diocese.
My name is Farzad. I am from the Luton Baha'i Faith community.
I'm Mary Huffman and I'm with Near Neighbours, and I'm here today with Inspire FM 105.1, and just want to say that I love it that we can work together in all different kinds of ways.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: من صلى علي واحدة صلى الله عليه عشرا. That whoever sends one supplication upon me, Allah sends 10 upon him.
The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Religion is sincerity." We said, "To whom, O the Prophet of Allah?" He said, "To Allah, His Book, His Messenger, to the leaders of Muslims and their common folk." Reported by Muslim.
You are number 19 in the queue.
Tired of hearing this? Waiting weeks for an NHS appointment? Optimise Body and Mind puts your health first.
I took a blood test and found out I was vitamin deficient.
That's right. Urgent GP appointments for just £45. Prompt, personalised care when you need it most.
I took a vitamin injection and now I feel like a new person.
Deal with symptoms, vitamin deficiencies, hormone imbalances and pick up any early signs of illness. Put your health first with Optimise Body and Mind. Call us on 0333 012 4214 or visit optimisedbodyandmind.co.uk to book your appointment today. Your health is our priority.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu wa bismillah. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدوامها وإن قل. That the most beloved action to Allah is those which are regular, even if little.
Oh, Hillary, I was going to use newspaper display advertising.
But
it costs £10 per inch.
And that's too expensive.
Oh, indeed it is. I want to sell a 10-foot ladder.
Oh, Roger, invest in an ear-catching advertising campaign on this radio station instead. It's a great way to tell people about your products and service.
For details, click on inspirefm.org, then advertise. From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:30.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the book club show on Inspire 105.1 FM. My name is Imrana Mahmood and it's just gone 10:30. On today's show, I am joined by the wonderful Shahd Mahnavi, who is a Palestinian poet, activist, advocate and entrepreneur. And Shahd grew up in Jerusalem and now lives in the UK with two wonderful children and has been really successful in building successful businesses. She has received the prestigious High Street Hero Award from Wandsworth Women Enterprise in 2023 and was a runner-up earlier this year. And on today's show, we are talking about Shahd's poetry collection, White Shoes. And just obviously to mention, all profits from book sales are going to go to medical aid for Palestinians. In the first half of the show, we were talking a little bit about the inspiration behind this poetry collection, White Shoes, Shahd's collaboration with artists, and how, I guess, she has been amplifying, Palestinian voices and shedding light on the current genocide in Gaza through her work. And we also talked a little bit about social media and the role that that's currently playing in terms of shedding light on the reality of what's happening on the ground, but also the fact that sometimes we are, having to deal with disinformation as well. We explored a little bit about the way we kind of feel maybe the government or the media portraying, you know, the protests that are currently happening in London and across, you know, across obviously the country in a slightly negative light. And actually, because of that reason, how important it is to continue challenging, I guess, the status quo, and how important it is to use art and poetry to be able to do that. And we're going to carry on the conversation in this second half of the show with Shahd about her collection, White Shoes. But what I'm hoping is that we'll be able to hear one of the poems, or hear Shahd share and recite one of the poems from the collection. So I'm just going to welcome Shahd back. So assalamu alaikum, Shahd. So just to mention, I think you might be on mute, so you might just need to unmute. And then hopefully it'd be really great that we might.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Salam. Thank you for having me this morning.
No, and thank you so much for obviously giving your time, and you know, and just for putting this beautiful, you know, book out into the world, you know, White Shoes. I've had a joy, you know, I've had a joy reading your work. And yeah, and I think I'm just excited for the fact that, you know, people will now be able to buy a book and have it on their bookshelves and, you know, inshallah, you know, be able to share it with, you know, friends and family. And I think it's such an important thing that we're able to support artists, but also, yeah, just kind of enjoy things which aren't just TV, because, you know, sometimes I think, you know, and that's the whole point of the book club show. It's really to rekindle our love for reading. So inshallah, you know, I'm hoping that it does do that. So I think you were hoping to share one of the poems from the collection called Hello World.
Yes. Ready?
Yes, absolutely.
Hello world, we are dangerous, a sight to behold. Fear us, let it unfold. Not mere children, a threat in your gaze. Our small bodies questioned in mysterious ways. Being Palestinian, does it grant a free pass to be killed? Beware, death is deserved. It's your bitter pill. If we pretend we are Europeans or of different genes, with the suffering seas, the tears in our means, wipe us away swiftly, forever left to cry, hungry and thirsty, without mama and baby nearby. Living in Palestine, a sentence it seems. Our existence a question, lost in despairing dreams. Where is our mama? Lying lifeless and cold. We lay on her chest with wounds that won't heal. Eventually, we will meet again soon. So go now, depart from our screens with ease. Clicking X is easier, it seems. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's always such a privilege to hear a poet you know, share and recite their own poetry, you know, read their own work. And again, you know, just another very powerful poem. And I guess I want to ask you particularly how it felt, you know, for you to, you know, to write that poem, you know, I guess. And also, you know, I was really struck by the use of the word Philistine. Because of course, you know, it's that thing again of coming back to our heritage and our language, and you know what, you know, how important that role, you know, plays in I guess our own sense of belonging. But yeah, just to hear a little bit about yeah, you know, your thoughts on that poem yourself as the writer.
Do you know what? It really, even as many times I recite this poem, it always gets to me the same. I feel all the pain of my people. All of a sudden, it just feels very overwhelming. It really feels that I should just keep carrying on speaking on their behalf and speak for them. And everything that I wrote in my poetry book is everything that they actually been going through, and it does not cover everything, but it's just what is currently happening in Gaza to these innocent mothers and children and families that is just, beyond belief. Words cannot even describe the agony and the hardship these innocent people have to experience without anyone putting a stop to it. And for me to write it down and feel it, and just to go and share it and go on stage and share it, and with hope that there will be a change, because it's something that is really, really heartbreaking.
Yeah, and I guess that sometimes I guess we need to be that change. When we want to see change in the world, and words and poetry is such a powerful medium as well. And I guess it's something there about this particular poem with such a simple title of Hello World, but it really, really does kind of capture, I guess, the intensity of the fact that this message really does need to be heard by the world. And the way you end your poem about you just saying clicking X is easier, again, because we were talking about social media earlier, and actually how, because we're so used to this kind of, I guess in some ways, immediacy of receiving information, where we're just kind of scrolling through, scroll, or we're kind of just clicking on things and opening windows and closing them, and I don't know, you seem to.
Yeah, I've seen it. And, Imrana, what makes me upset is like some people using it as a trend.
Yeah.
It's like our life is what's happening back home is not a trend. This is real. This is happening to them. They are suffering. I spoke to this one lady yesterday. She sent me a message. She showed me where she sleeps, her children. She's crying. I could hear the drones on top of her head and like on top of their tent. And, this is real. This is real. And for me to be here, and what saddens me, Imrana, that people lack empathy and still like humanity towards Palestinian people. And they just carry bias and stereotypes, it clouds their ability to emphasize with individuals. It's like dehumanization makes it easier for some to disregard their suffering. It's just misinformation. But at the same time, I'm thinking, you have access to all this, and people are in Gaza crying for help. How can you still basically devalue it? How can you just ignore it and just carry on with living and just still stand and say, oh, but make excuses? It's not but, it's humanity. It's people who they need these atrocities to stop. This genocide needs to stop for the sake of humanity. That's it. There shouldn't be an argument. There shouldn't be buts. There should be action to be taken. That's all we want, that's all we want. Peace and love for my Palestinian people, and identity for them, and to experience life.
And there's so many people who do tend to you're right, just look at this and lack that humanity and lack that empathy. And you're right, so much of it is coming from dehumanizing the people in Palestine and in Gaza, and you're right, this idea of there's always a but at the end of the sentence, or again coming up with excuses. And it's so, after so many, especially I know we've said that this isn't something that just started a few months ago. This is an ongoing this is many decades. And obviously I've talked on previous shows about the Nakba, and obviously the idea that that there's I guess in some ways the original catastrophe, but obviously this is not something that stopped then, it's still ongoing. And it did make me think of just, moving on to another poem in your collection, White Shoes, which is called Whispers from the Haunted Coast. And again, such a powerful poem, and you've used kind of themes of a little bit of kind of Halloween, which is, I guess, for people who live in the West, or living in the UK and the US, obviously it's something that you hear the word Halloween, it conjures up certain images, and obviously you've used it very well as a metaphor to describe the horrors being faced by Palestinians at the moment. And again, what was that process of writing like for you? Is it something where you're sitting down and writing this poem in one go, or is it things come to you bit by bit? And I'm just maybe interested in the process of your writing, especially when dealing with something, again, like you said, which is something real, which is happening to people in their lives.
And okay, I'll tell you the story. Because I've been performing, I was invited to perform basically because Halloween is coming, and it wasn't really only Palestinians. And I said, you know what? The world needs to know the truth. Halloween is not a festive it's not really something to celebrate. My people are living, ending Halloween. So when they said to me, please, could you come and perform? It's for Halloween. I said, for what's happening to my people, I want to spread awareness. And for me, I perform everywhere to raise awareness, to let people from all different backgrounds to know the truth. And I challenge myself, because it would be scary going out of your comfort zone. So when I wrote the poem, Whispers from the Haunted Coast, I know I'm going to challenge myself because it wasn't in my comfort zone. So first of all, I was in tears as I was writing it. And right before Halloween, because it was just a week after what's been happening in Gaza. And I was very overwhelmed. And the way I write, Imrana, I just see it, I visualize it, and it's all in my head. And I don't plan. That's one thing about the way I work. I do not plan. I could be standing in the kitchen making a meal. I could be speaking to you. I could see an image, and then my mind just immediately gives me an idea. And constantly, it could be any time of the day. I do not plan to write. It just happens. And then when I watched what's happening in Gaza, and I said, going to Halloween, and it's not, Halloween is real. It is real. So I just couldn't understand how some people could turn a blind eye to the suffering of the people in Gaza. It's a never-ending horror story, a real-life Halloween with no mercy. So I used Halloween as a metaphor to express the unimaginable horrors faced by Palestinians. It's just a way to convey the deep sorrow and disbelief I felt. It's just heart-wrenching, as all these images playing in my head of the dead bodies and innocent children and their families, and the contrast between the festive holiday season and the harsh reality of life in Gaza highlighted the stark difference between fantasy and the grim truth. Just a chilling reminder of the struggles and lack of empathy experienced by the Palestinian people, always caught in conflict and despair, always.
And all the more power to you, because of course it's not easy to be writing poetry, like you said, which becomes some sort of comfort zone, but then to go and perform it, and especially not knowing who might be in the audience and how it might be received. But again, I think it's testament, obviously, to yourself and to your I guess dedication and commitment to amplifying.
I was the only Palestinian a person at that event, just to let you know. I just couldn't really keep it in. I just said I really have to go, and just and I felt rewarded. It just felt like, okay, people need to know. They need to, because people are scared to speak, aren't they? They're quite. It's like quiet. Some people, they don't want to speak about it. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist if you don't speak about it. It exists.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, for you to do that and continue doing that, and of course, you are performing in so many different spaces and places, which is amazing. And I think am I right? Did I see that you are going, or you've already been to Ireland?
I'm going to Ireland. I've been awarded writer in residence.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm going to Swerve magazine. It's amazing. They're actually, I'm going to Ireland, Cork, and I'm going there. Actually arranged a special event for me, few days, and I have workshops, and also I'm actually really I'm working on a memoir about this, and I'm gonna take my time with that one. And basically, just Ireland, I love how they support us, with all this overwhelming love, and they're looking forward to having me. I'm looking forward to going, so I'm gonna be there from beginning of May, and I will be performing. And there's few marches. They want me to go and speak, so it's an honor for me. It's just you know what it is, Imrana. When God give you something that you want to give to the world without gains, I feel like in my heart, I don't want anything back. I just don't want Palestinians' voice to die, and that is my dream. And I want people to look at us and say, what peaceful people. They're peaceful, and they have love, and they have understanding, and I want them to open dialogue with us, open dialogue, empathy building, just having the willing like to challenge us, and come and speak to us, and see, and basically read about our history, and contribute, and we you are welcome to get to know us. And we're always, we are people that really want to change and have an identity like everyone else. And for me, alhamdulillah, this is something that as long as I live, I'm here, inshallah, I can raise awareness in any way possible, because honestly, I want nothing back. I just want to help, and just to know that White Shoes is constantly going to charity, and my second book. This is rewarding for me, this is rewarding. This is a gift that I want to gift Palestinian people.
And may Allah continue to grant you success, both in being able to travel, not just to Ireland, but into many different places. And again, may your book also be really successful and get into many hands. And but you're right, I think it has been interesting to see, especially kind of the Irish solidarity, because of course if we talk about the British Empire and the way Britain have treated so many people around the world, and there's a reason that I guess particularly the Irish also understand the Palestinian kind of plight and the struggles as well. And you've got, again, the White Shoes, your poetry collections, you've got such beautiful, powerful poems as part of that collection. And again, in one of the poems, you say, my Palestinian heritage blamed from birth for having a voice, for the blood that courses the earth, breathing the same air, fault follows their trace, always blamed, finding peace only in death's embrace. And I guess it was really making me think a little bit about, how has your own relationship, I mean, we've touched on a little bit before, of your own Palestinian heritage, I guess, changed over the years, especially now that, you're obviously living in the UK, and obviously you're writing, poetry. And what is your hope? What message do you want people to take once they've, inshallah, they buy your collection and they read your poems? What message are you hoping they'll take?
Rana, I want to tell them, please accept us for who we are, because we can't be anyone else. Just like how we accept you, we believe in peace. And I want you to see that this poetry book represents the voices of those who are still oppressed, humiliated, discriminated against, and have lost their homes and lives. Carry with you understanding and love in your heart, and let it inspire you to spread empathy and kindness. And if anyone questions our cause, just ask them, where is your humanity? I want to express my thanks to everyone who has bought my book and for their support. It's making a huge difference for medical aid for Palestinians. And as I mentioned, this book, poetry book, is dedicated entirely for this charity as a gift for the Palestinian people.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful gift to give, and and again, thank you for writing it and for sharing and for doing everything that you do. And I wonder, we've got maybe about two and a half minutes. Would you be happy to maybe read another poem? I just mentioned They Are to Blame. I don't know if that might be a good
They Are to Blame. Yes, that is very fitting. Yes. They are to blame. No doubt can be found. One-sided story, their burden renowned. Thirsty and dirty, with empty tanks to claim. They carry the fault with no one to blame. Electricity controlled, worsening their plight. Still, they are blamed with no end in sight. Confined behind barriers, imprisoned by walls. Once more, they're blamed as the burden falls. Inhuman injustice, my friend, they face. Accused by the world in a relentless chase. Confiscated, tested, locked away in the night. Blamed unfairly, in silence they fight. My Palestinian heritage, blamed from birth, for having a voice, for the blood that courses the earth, breathing the same air, fault follows their trace, always blamed, finding peace only in death's embrace. Thank you.
Thank you so much for reading that, and again for sharing it and really encapsulating, I think, so much of what we've discussed on the show, and what many people, of course, over the past few months especially have been speaking about and trying to amplify and shed light on. So thank you, Shahd, for obviously joining us on today's show, and for sharing White Shoes with us. So just a reminder to listeners, we were speaking to Shahd Mahnavi, who is a Palestinian poet, writer, entrepreneur and advocate for especially in this case for Palestinian voices and for amplifying them. White Shoes is the poetry collection that we've been discussing today, which you can purchase, and you can follow Shahd on social media, on Instagram, and also all profits from book sales will be going to medical aid for Palestinians. It's been an absolute pleasure to be speaking to Shahd Mahnavi on today's show. So thank you so much for giving up your morning to be with us, Shahd. And inshallah thank you. And inshallah we'll keep following your work, and we'll look forward to obviously your next collection, which I know you're currently working on as well. And and hopefully we'll have you back on the show in the near future. In the meantime, listeners, I'll be back in a couple of weeks with a new book and a new guest, inshallah. In the meantime, please do keep us all in your du'as, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. Assalamu alaikum.
एक वक्फे के बाद साबरा हुसैन पेश करेंगी दीनी मालूमात पर मबनी प्रोग्राम दीन और दुनिया। सुनते रहिए।